Probably my least favorite form of political conflict or debate would be that sort of debate that only exists because the two opposing sides refuse to define the terms they're using clearly. And I find all of the discourse about superpowerism in politics to be of this ilk. Is the United States of America still a superpower in the 21st century? Will the United States of America still be a superpower in the year 2050? Is Russia still a superpower? Is Russia going to be a superpower? Will India be the next superpower? Superpower. What do you mean by the word superpower? And this whole question is just revealed as being the most sort of teenage asinine bullshit as soon as we just take 5 minutes to define the word superpower. There's no debate worth having here. Okay? China built a train, a world-class high-speed train to Tibet. Is the United States ever going to build a high-speed train that connects Los Angeles, California to Las Vegas, Nevada? Does the answer to this question have anything to do with whether or not you're a superpower? Like, when China was celebrating, reveling in their amazing accomplishment in building a train to Tibet, I mean, I reminded people, is it really such an accomplishment to connect two parts of your own country by rail? Like, in the 21st century, is this so amazing? When China managed to put a man in space, launch satellites, when they were accomplishing feats of space exploration that in the United States took place between the year 1950 and the year 1965, I had to ask again skeptically, is this really such an accomplishment? I mean, okay, so, their accomplishments in space technology in China are catching up with 1965. Their accomplishments in connecting their own country by railroad would be catching up with Europe in 1865. Maybe your definition of superpower really has to do with infrastructure, like having good quality trains. Japan, wonderful train system. Taiwan, wonderful high-speed train system. Doesn't make you a superpower. And what the hell are we talking about with this superpower nonsense? Is it perhaps the ability to take the boring, mundane fact that you built a train and project that information around the world in some kind of amazing propaganda that makes it seem like an accomplishment? Is that what makes you a superpower? That you managed to thrill the mainstream press globally with this news of your great accomplishment, and everyone has to take you seriously when you announce that you've built a train, whereas I guess nobody takes it so seriously when Italy builds a new train, right? Because Italy isn't a superpower, whereas Russia could be, or Brazil might be, so on and so forth. Now, it may be that some people have a modest, realistic checklist of what makes a superpower. It may be that some people really sincerely care about whether or not the United States can exclude other countries from interfering in Jamaica and Haiti. There's this sort of old-fashioned concept of spheres of influence. I don't think anyone on planet Earth is sincerely engaged in that sort of discourse today. I don't think anyone feels it would be humiliating to the United States of America today if Germany or France or Russia were really sincerely interested in getting involved in the politics and economic development of Jamaica or Haiti. That is really a kind of 18th century way of thinking that carried on into the 19th century, but made less and less sense already in the 20th century, the old days of the Monroe Doctrine. So, what does it mean when we ask the question, is America a superpower, or will America be a superpower? I think it's really a dishonest dodge for a much more meaningful, important, and pressing question, which is, will the United States go bankrupt? That's what we really want to know, right? Why is it that the United States has not built a high-speed train that connects Los Angeles to Las Vegas? Why is it that there isn't a high-speed train going north from Los Angeles to Seattle, and then maybe from Seattle to Vancouver? Why not? Why does nobody even think that's possible in the next 10 years? Because the United States is broke, right? They're not completely bankrupt. Everyone knows this is a country that burned through trillions of dollars bombing places that the president can't pronounce, and now there is no money to build a world-class railway system the way Japan and Taiwan and China have done, and most of Western Europe already has done. I haven't been on the trains in Spain, for example. I don't know how good I'm not going to say all of Western Europe, but France and Germany, those countries all have world-class high-speed train systems, which the United States doesn't have. So the period following after September 11th, 2001 to the year 2020, was this the final epoch of profligate spending for the United States, after which it will sink into a sort of near bankruptcy, such as Japan has known for many years? Now, again, just to digress briefly, quality of life is very high in Japan. Quality of education is very high in Japan. However, Japan, in terms of the unbelievable indebtedness of the government, they're not in a position to take on new adventures, neither military adventures nor space exploration adventures, nor building massive new infrastructure projects. So in saying that the government of Japan is bankrupt, nevertheless, in many ways, a very successful country, people have very high quality of life, etc., doesn't mean a collapse. However, nobody is talking about the next 100 years as the Japanese century, and nobody is discussing Japan as a superpower. Japan is a country teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. And the question I think nobody wants to ask is, will America now spend its next century teetering on the edge of bankruptcy? If Donald Trump is president of the United States, the answer is yes. Donald Trump is bankrupting the United States of America. If the next president elected after Donald Trump is substantively the same as Donald Trump in his policies and his political outlook, then the answer is yes. America is going broke. America is going bankrupt. The period of time in which they could leverage trillion-dollar budgets and trillion-dollar deficits in this way is disappearing. Along with that impending bankruptcy will be a cultural change where Americans learn to regard it as none of their business when Iran and Saudi Arabia are at war. Why should the United States arbitrate that war? Why should they get involved? Why should they expend huge amounts of money and military hardware on one side or the other? Or if there were more disputes between Iran and Iraq, so on and so forth. It has always been remarkable to me that Americans care so little about political instability in Mexico that very directly impacts life in the United States, their immediate neighbors to the south. But it seems to be so easy to convince Americans to fly away to the other side of the world, to be involved in wars, again, in places that the President of the United States himself can't pronounce. Okay, so guys, I had several different people writing in asking me to comment on this issue. And I have to say, I feel that the superpower discourse, it is just not a sincere area of political debate. I think it's a topic that broadcast news media enjoys grandstanding on. A lot of people with PhDs publish books with pretentious titles and sweeping narratives about the history of Western civilization. I see no appeal in those books and no utility, and I don't think it's a legitimate area of research. And making these predictions about the future of the American empire and so on, I see as sort of laughably pretentious, when indeed the pragmatic and humbling questions we have, I'm Canadian. I can't take a train from Ottawa to Regina, from the capital of our country to the middle of our country. Canada never caught up with Europe in that way. And by the way, Canada did bankrupt itself building trains, the trains we've got, the Grand Trunk Railway and all this stuff. Our dream was of building railroads to unite our massive country, and we never did manage it. I think, look, okay, I'll say just one more thing. Why does government exist? I don't believe fundamentally that government exists to project power in this way. This is why it's kind of laughable to me, this measure of what it means to be a superpower. I actually think that government exists by the people and for the poor. It's not really millionaires who need social services. It's not millionaires who need trains. Millionaires can take a helicopter, I think the really meaningful question is whether or not a given government in a given country in the world can take care of its own poor. Japan can. Taiwan can. Switzerland can. Denmark can. I think that's the purpose political power exists for. And of course, as soon as you think in that terms, you don't think of government as a superpower. You think of it as a kind of super janitor. That's my comment. You guys sent in the question. There's my answer.